It's about failure. First of all, I hit the ground running with the sales. Marketing and sales are two different things. This sales is when the potential client penetrates the skin of the company. All of these deals, once that happens, sales takes over. And see, that's why my philosophy is sales is simple, but it's not easy. So most people think it has to do with money, exchanging hands. But we're born
Adding
to
value?
sell. We're born to sell. When you were a child, when you asked for milk or wanted to get picked up, that's a close. Because sales is like a
Yes.
performance.
Right. Welcome to another exciting episode of Business Growth Talks, the podcast where we deep dive into strategies, insights, and experiences that fuel business success. I'm your host, Mark Hayward, and today we have a phenomenal guest who is redefining the world of sales. Joining us today is Ben Brown, a seasoned sales coach, author, and speaker for over 20 years' experience in selling everything from stocks to cars to medical devices. Ben is the owner of 360 Sales Consulting, a leading consultancy dedicated to helping businesses streamline their processes and achieve top level tier success. In his acclaimed book, Master of Art of Closing the Sale, Ben reveals a 10-step sales process focusing on identifying and solving customer pain points, building rapport, and confidently closing deals. His mission is to help salespeople and business owners achieve financial freedom through enhanced sales. So today we have Ben Brown to the show. Thank you very much, Ben. How are you today?
Good morning to you from across the pond. How's everything?
Everything is really good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, we're going to deep dive into your business, the strategies you've done to be able to grow your business, and equally a little bit understanding how your business is structured and what you do there. Super excited to speak to you today. As always on my show, the first question I ask is what does a business mindset mean to you?
One of the things we want to do for your audience today is give them some golden nuggets that they can take away and implement right away in their business that changes their life and also their income and hopefully their family and their legacy. But business mindset mainly is people being able to endure, encourage, and learn because business is always changing, especially today. If you take a term like AI into account, the
Mm.
changes that are being made every day as far as what is implemented and how you implement it, these are all tools that we have. How do you utilize those tools? You imagine people freaking out about AI and things of that nature. You imagine when the first business person got their laptop, what is this going to do for my business? That changed and evolved everything. So all of these are just different tools and how you manage them to utilize the same process that's been going on since before the Roman times, the process of business, which is working with customers, products, and services. And I say every entrepreneur, business people, what we are is problem solvers, all in the end.
Very comprehensive answer. Thank you. The one thing I wanted to pick up on, yes, agility, changing, pivoting, adapting to your surroundings, but a word that you might not even realize you used was endure. So it's a struggle at times, isn't it? Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, it can be.
I said to one person the other day because it's actually being a term people, young people would actually side gigs. What is that to you? What does that mean when people say that? I'm like, there's no such thing as a side gig. Either you're in or you're out. You have a side job. You don't have a side gig. And so the main thing is for people to understand. I said, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Do you really want to go 80, 90 days without getting paid and working 60, 70 hours a week? Can you really do that? And most people don't understand, as most things, the brilliant side that's shown on actually social media, but they
Yeah.
don't understand the backside that 90% of companies, I think, don't make it past 5 years.
I love the quote of, I was an overnight success. It just took me 10 years.
I talked to a gentleman yesterday that is actually in Tampa. Brilliant gentleman. He was a director of, I forgot his term, but he worked hand in hand with the NBA for 14 years.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he transcended. I met him yesterday. And he's had his business where he worked with former players to develop their mindset for business to carry on their legacy. And he's had it for 10 years. And nobody hardly even knows he exists in the town that he lives in. And he
Mm.
struggles to do that. And so we talked about how to get him more visibility because people don't understand what that possibly means in their business. And then also coming from my sales background, how do you sell that? So these players have brands, but how do you sell the brand? Because everything in business goes down to sales. That's why I'm the cog
100%.
in the wheel most of the time for everybody when they reach out to me. Great, you have a great exposure, you have a great structure. How do you sell it? How do you make it move? How do you make people buy? How do you make people invest? And these are the key things that I bring to the table when I talk about 360 sales. Because Mark Cuban, as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who got beat last night by my Celtics, said the
Right.
first thing you have to learn when you start a business is learn how to sell. So I talk a lot of analogies and I can bring a couple in so people can understand what sales really is because most people don't know what it means.
I genuinely believe that sales is the cornerstone of
Right.
a business, because if you're not selling, you've not got revenue, you've not got any profitability. And I think and what I've experienced with people over the years are most founders have an element of that they've gone out and sold and they've been the first salesperson within the team, which is absolutely right and absolutely true. But it's interesting, the introverted ones that aren't naturally salesmen, even of their own product or service, they have to quickly identify that and get a salesperson in that is good at selling and being able to do that. What's your, because I know you work with people as a consultancy basis, but just that specific example of an introvert who doesn't like selling, how do you help a entrepreneur like that?
One of the things I cover when I talk to people is, and I ask a real quick question. I want a simple answer when I ask you this because it starts the pyramid going down for you. What is the purpose of a sale?
To earn revenue. Simple as that.
And see, that's why my philosophy is sales is simple, but it's not easy. So most people think it has to do with money, exchanging hands. But we're born
Adding
to
value.
sell. We're born to sell. When you were a child, when you asked for milk or wanted to get picked up, that's a close. We live in Western civilization where people tell you it's rude to ask too many times when you're a child. So you're actually trained out of selling. So when you go to third world countries and markets where there's no prices and 6-year-old children selling fixed fishing rods on the street, we're all born to sell. So to go back to your point, you have personality, introvert, which is better at selling. Personality people are very confident and sometimes doesn't stay to the strict rules of the sales process. So I said, people, if you have a good sales process, it will set you free. The
Right.
introvert, in the other hand, will kick the butt of the personality person because they would adhere to the rules. They're scared to not do things properly, and they will stick further closely to the process on an even keel basis. And
Right.
eventually, the rabbit and the turtle, the introvert, will beat because this person will use his personality instead of the process. And when he starts taking things out of that process, which we all do as humans, if you don't
Mm.
come back to and go back to the rules, and then you will blame it on everyone else. Salespeople are good at blaming everybody else except for themselves on the sale, and that's where the problem starts to lie. We're all human, so that's where the sales coach come in to go in and figure out what the problem is, what you stop doing, or what you're not doing, so you can get
Mm.
back to selling.
Thank you. We will talk a lot more about sales. I just got one question before we go into your business and who you serve. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
I grew up in a small town, graduating class about 77 people in a small town in South Carolina. I was the only boy. I had an older sister on a about 160-acre farm where
Oh,
we
right.
had
Okay.
everything. So there was a tractor with no top on it. I was out in the sun all day. We had chickens, guineas, pigs, hogs, cows, turkeys, hunting dogs. And so we had to service those every day. I had about a 2 acre yard that needed to be cut. One of the things I tell people, we had a riding lawnmower and a push mower. The push mower was the edge. The riding lawnmower was the cover. My dad was the old school. He didn't have to say much. So he'll sit at
Mm.
the table and I go, my name was Boy until I was 18. Boy, do you go out there and cut the yard? And I'm like, but daddy, the riding lawnmower is broke. All he had to do was look at me. So there I am pushing the yard now. so 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 the work ethic was instilled, which it helps in entrepreneurship. I have a godson who's 26. I'm bringing him along for the ride, teaching him the way. But the main thing, he works 2 jobs, 3 jobs now. You have to have the work ethic first
Yeah.
and instill that. Everybody wants to come out of college and make money. You need to work for somebody first to appreciate what it is to work for yourself. Most of these kids that are YouTube friendly have these brands, they come out of the box running, making money right away. Eventually, it will happen that you will, it 18, 19 years old, you have $100,000 car, you have a full house. You haven't really earned it over time. You're just very
Mm.
popular, which is nothing wrong with it. But earning something is where you appreciate it more. Because when they turn 25, what is there left? You've traveled the world, you have done everything. There's nothing else for you to conquer. You've made the money that most people will never do in their life, just like childhood stars. It's an empty on the end because the people that you have grown up with and work with are with you because you're popular, not because of you. And you'll finally start to realize they start pulling away. Business partners are the same thing. You work with people you realize you shouldn't have worked with, so on and so forth. So it's an ongoing learning process in entrepreneurs as well. So
Mm.
the enthusiasm of meeting new people, seeing if you can put something together, put a deal together, work on things like that is very interesting on a regular basis. I don't know what's going to happen every day.
Right, wonderful. So tell me about 360 Sales Consultancy. Who do you serve? Who do you work with? And just tell me a little bit more about the business.
I was in sales for about 17 years, and then I started entrepreneurship in 2002. I thought to myself, what I want to do the rest of my life was teach because I'm part of 74 first cousins, and most of them are teachers or preachers, so it's in the blood. And after 6 months of knocking my brain against the wall, I decided to teach what I know, and that was sales. And so I started a project plan of taking a couple of people, testing the model of what I pull from 20 years of experience into a process and started testing it and finding out it was very effective. So one thing I found out is that I not only can sell, which I'm not never the best salesman and there's no such thing, but the difference is that I can teach it, which is
Right.
exciting. So a lot of people can do, but they can't teach. And so, starting with that, working with companies locally and been doing it ever since, is the medium size to the entrepreneur, working with them to teach them a sales process that can be repeatable and implemented into a company no matter what your product or service is, because it's about the process, not the product. And actually using that and role playing where the rubber hits the wheel, hits the road, because you have to practice it. It's work. It's a skill. So it just doesn't happen by just reading a book or watching a video. You have to practice it, understand it. So most people have been doing it wrong for many a years. So my door starts to ring, my email starts to ring when people realize the fear. The business is in trouble. We need more revenue. We're losing revenue. Problem solvers as entrepreneurs. So I come in and find out what the problem is and then lay the actual process or what they're currently doing to rectify that or build a process, which normally what I'm doing because they don't have one, and then testing it, making sure it works, putting it in place, and then walking away and then coming back, tuning it every now and then, the mechanic.
So how do you deal with that problem solving? So you win a new client. and you're understanding that the sales process is not working maybe as effectively or as well as they would hope,
Mhm.
how do you assess that company and that sales process and then make the recommendations?
First of all, I hit the ground running with the sales. Who is a salesperson? And then I would ask them a simple question: pitch me. Most
Right.
people can't
Nice.
pitch. Right on this. So, what's the problem? Why can't you do that? You're a salesperson. Then I go back to the sales process. Marketing and sales are two different things. You always have this myth that it blends in this. Sales is when the potential client penetrates the skin of the company. That is an email, a phone call, a walk in, all of these deals. Once that happens, sales takes over. And it can be implemented from the CEO all the way down to the janitor. Everybody should be on the same course. Everybody at the company should be in sales, right? And that's when you have your mantra and how you move forward. And then once that process, what do you say? What is the steps that you do? And you make sure, because at any given time in the sales process, I work with companies and I learned this. I was in a room of 125 salespeople. We were on the phone from 9 to 6, no computers, just a black phone, doing 160 to by 120, 160 dials a day, just fax machines. Hated it when we got computers. It slowed us down. And so at any given time, I can come over to you and just say, hey, what step are you on? 4. Give me the phone. So anyway, and just take over the conversation,
Mm.
right? Because that's how driven we were on the process. Tell me what step you're on. And back then we had 12. And you could say step 6. Okay. I can go right into that phone conversation, right in the middle of the customer, and just sit down and take over the conversation and just keep moving. And then he could come back in and take over if he wanted. That's smooth. That's
Mm.
consistent. And we had people that would come in and out that room. And I think working 4 years there, we probably seen probably maybe around 3,000 people that couldn't cut the mustard. They came in every 2 weeks. We would bring people in to see. And most of those people have been in sales for a number of years. And we said to them, listen, in order for this to work, you have to do this process. I used to sell boats and real estate. If it worked, you wouldn't be here. So calm that down, your ego. This is the way we do things here. And if you can't do that, you're going to be out the door. And most of the time, 2 weeks later, I used to love my manager. I tell people I love firing people. It's one of the best things you can ever do, because what you're doing, you're letting them free to do something
Mm.
because they're not successful by keeping you. I would be wasting your talent and your time because it's just not for you here. And I
Mm.
always used to love that with my manager because he fired a ton of people. I love firing people. I'm like, listen, the first thing I start off, it's not for everyone.
But entrepreneurship's not for everyone as well. What do you think
No.
you were? Do you think you were always entrepreneurial?
I grew up, a lot of people always reflect upon their family on the farm. We sold peanuts. My mom started her catering business, which she was generating between 50 to $100,000 a year out of a kitchen,
Wow.
doing everything from cakes to weddings to she grew it. And all she used in her database was a freaking calendar. No
Right.
business cards, no website, no social media, none of that. And people would just call and she would just take orders. And it was the referral base. And at
Right.
Christmas time, our living room would just be full of peanut brittle and cakes. I would always come home. She would do 3-day events at churches where she would feed like 75 people 7 meals. It was just incredible.
Wow.
So one of the entrepreneur things when I started doing before I got became an entrepreneur, she used to make what's called peanut brittle.
Mm.
And every mom was the best cook, but she was the best cook in the county. She was part
Right.
of 15 children. She started cooking when she was younger. She was the cook for her family when she was yay big, and she took cooking classes. So she
Mm.
was, people still to today, the first thing they say about my mom is, and she would make peanut brittle, these little things like
Mm. Mm.
people who know
Yep.
peanut brittle. And she would
Yep.
sell them for $2 a pie. And she would
Right.
break them up, put them in bags. And a gentleman would come down every year from New York and he would order 300 sheets.
Wow.
You imagine that at $600, she was sitting there, and
Mm,
peanut brittle can only be made at a certain temperature with a certain humidity in the air. Mom
okay.
knew it, right? You can only make it if it's too hot, too cold, because when you pour it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I go to her and I said, because she's getting older, I'm like, nobody makes them like you. It's time for you to raise your prices. And she was like, oh, I would never. And I was trying to teach my mom how to be entrepreneurial. And it took me 6 months, almost a year of just telling her, nobody can do this.
Yeah.
He's probably taking them up there for $2 a pie to New York. He's probably selling them for probably $11, $12 a piece.
Mm,
I'm like, you need to raise your prices. So
absolutely.
a year later, she comes back to me after Christmas, after the big holiday in February. She says, oh, by the way, I did raise my prices. I went from $2 to $6. And I go, so what kind of feedback did you get from that? She said, I haven't heard a word, child. Nobody
Mm,
has said a word. I said, so you imagine you tripled your profits just by changing your mind that
mm,
your value was higher, which I have to do
mm.
sometime with clients. Your value is high. Most people don't know their value. And so knowing that is an important thing as an entrepreneur, because so most times you're underpriced if you already have the authority.
Yeah. It's such an interesting conversation about pricing because in most cases, especially earlier in a business, so early stages of a business, you invariably are underpricing yourself. And that whole conversation of actually you do need to raise your prices. There's external reasons like inflation and the cost of living and all that stuff, which is absolutely contributing to it. But that realization that your mother experienced, that she can treble her price and still everyone is happy with the service, I think is for all those that are listening now at the early stages of their business, listen to that and think about that, because she could probably have added a few more dollars on top of that until she gets resistance, and then she knows that's the top end.
Which she never did. And
No,
because people
no.
knew the value, and I was like, you're you could do less work. So we talk about consulting, right? So there's only one
Mm,
of me. You get a lot of me. There's no other person, so my value is high because my authority for what I do is normally 30 to 70%. I have to see it in your business where that growth is, because I like that
mm,
growth to pay for me, not you. So if
yeah,
I don't see the growth, there's no need for me to work for you, because I am testimonial and referral based. When I finish
right.
with you, I'm going to ask you, who do you know that I can work with? And most of the people like, it works for me. I'm going to tell you. And that's like network marketing or insurance uses
Yep,
that, because that's the last step in my book, is that most companies don't have a referral based program. They're
yep,
just going through. I'm working with a company currently right now. The gentleman goes through three group calls of around 10 to 20 people a week who he has already vetted, talked to, instructed, educated. Out of that, those two calls, say 20 people, he will probably take three people to have a one on one with, that he will sell and probably close. So there's 17 people a week that he has never did a one on one with. Low hanging fruit. So now
mm,
we're implementing a business. We're going back through the database, which I do with most companies. Who have you not talked to but already know who you are? And go
mm,
back through and repitch them. And we're having tremendous, because that's your bank. Your CRM is your bank. And most people
yeah,
never went to the bank to pull the money out. So right then and there, we're talking five, maybe six figures worth of business that somebody has never, because he's just plowing through the low hanging
yeah,
fruit of on a
yeah,
system that works. And so there's things like that I bring to the table, the technology. What is your CRM? There's a million things of 360 sales, your voice, tonality, your body movements. It's
right,
so many things that I can go into a company and say, you're not doing this good, you're not doing this good, you're not doing this good. By doing this, you're going to make probably five figures, same cost as you're going to pay for me, plus more, because it's something going to continue on. I've been working
mm,
with clients that comes back every other year. They'll come back with the Eagles when I leave them, EGO, And then they come back and say, something's not working. I'm not feeling it. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just
Right.
motivation to get them up.
So why do you think you are such a natural trainer or educator?
Empathy. It normally takes about 30 to 45 days for the light to come on. And for me, I tell people it's like an orgasm. I can say that. People are like, oh,
You
what I do, it normally takes people 35, 40 days of me hammering because what I had to
mm,
do, I'm a mindset coach because most of the time I had to take out the negativity to put the positivity back in. And that
mm,
takes a little while for them to understand because 80% of sales, golden nugget, is confidence. 80% of sales is confidence. You have to be able to take resistance and rejection. Most people can't do it. Their mindset is not, they've never been rejected. We talk about bullying today, taking bullying out of school. That's how you grow. People pick at you, you change. Like you
mm,
smell, you
mm.
need to wash. You're big, you need to go to the gym. All these things to correct. You have to be able to correct people. You have to be able to take criticism. And people take it when people don't buy their product, they take it personal. You can't take it personal. It's business. And so in 45, most of the time I found this when I was doing my program, that when that person comes back and goes, I got it. Now I know what you're talking about. And I'm like,
There you go.
yes,
It's been worth it.
now you got it. Now I understand why I do that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they went out and practiced it and they seen it in real time. Because I've been telling them for a month, do this. And they're scared. I could never ask that question. Do this. We role play.
Yeah.
They're like, I asked it and it worked. And I got, and they're like, I can't believe it. It's yes. Yes. It's like karate when they tell you to break the board and you
Yeah.
practice all
Yeah.
the time and they sit up there and you're like, this is going to hurt. It's, no, if you push through and you're like, and you go boom and the board snaps and you're like, whoa, you're like, yeah. No, let's go get a brick wall. No.
You talked about resilience. I think why a lot of entrepreneurs start in sales is because of that idea of resilience, of keep on going. When the phone gets put down on you or the no comes, being able to then pick up the phone and do it all over again. What's your how do you instill that kind of resilience into people that don't have that naturally or have not experienced that?
You're going to love this. People are normally running away from something, right? Or running to something. That's how we
Yeah,
built as people. So, one of the simple things I do is that once we got the process down, you practice it, right? So, you got
yeah,
this tool that you're going to use on a regular basis. You honed it, you worked on it, the steps. So, now I have to motivate you to do it. And then the resistance is going to come. So, most entrepreneurs or managers will have a quota. You need to sell this much, right? So in your head, you're like, oh, I need 2 deals today. I need 2 deals
mm,
today.
mm,
I can reverse engineer it. I tell the people, I want 98 no's, but I want a perfect process no matter what. Make sure your process is right, but I want 98 no's and I want you to start writing this down. Write this down. Every one you do a check mark. I want to do it and I want to listen to you and I want to go through it. So the mindset has changed. I'm
mm,
not worried about
mm.
the sale. I'm worried about my performance because sales is like a
Yes,
performance.
right,
At the end of the day, normally if they do it right, they got 10 sales.
right.
They wasn't worried about the two.
Yeah,
They were worried about the 98 no's of I want to know. I want a no. I want
yeah,
a no. I don't want a yes. And so just sometime just by doing that little step, people are like, I got 10 sales. I'm like, yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that cool? Like you could do it. Like so it's just a mindset because sales is a beautiful thing when it's done right. It's an art,
mm,
right?
mm,
It should be enjoyed because in the end I'm going to ask for what? A referral. So if I do a beautiful process with you and you're like, "Oh, that was nice." And some people will compliment you. That was very nice. They went along for the ride, and especially people in sales, the first thing they're going to do, how long you been doing this? This is the questions that come. How long you been working there? have you had offers? Can you come do this for me? It's like when you start getting compliments on your
Mm,
performance,
mm,
that's when you know you're like hitting that nice spot. And it doesn't stay. It's not positive. Sales, either you're getting better or worse every day. So you might go on vacation, a holiday for a month, come back. You might be rusty, right?
mm.
Something happened with your family. You're taking it emotionally strong. And so people feel that on the phone when you talk to them or in person, and you might fall off. I've had one client went away, and it's normally processes to get to a top salesperson. So I worked with him for about 3 to 4 months. Left, sunglasses on. I'm a bad man. I'm like, that's scary. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. You're going to come back and see me. No, I know it now. I'm good. I'm good. Shoot, 9 months later, tail between the legs. I don't understand what's going on. I'm like, yeah, you got too much of an ego. So being
Mm,
successful
mm.
in sales sometimes can be a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you tailor your training to your specific client needs?
In the book, Master the Art of Closing a Sale, there's 10 steps. So
Okay.
every sale has 10 steps, but not every product or service needs those 10. Let me say that again. Every sale has 10 steps, but not every product or service needs those 10 steps. So
Okay.
so for say for example, there's 10 steps in the book, but if I'm in the gym business, it's 5 steps. Need, use, affordability, spouse, guest pass. But there's 10 steps in it.
Right.
So when I work with you, I'm like, learn the 10 steps. Then we pull exactly what your product or service needs for those 10 steps to customize your process that you're going to use on a regular basis. So
Right.
this is like an adjustable wrench and I don't care what product, because most people come to say, I don't know if you can help us because we do this. And I go, I don't give a damn what you, first of all, I don't care what you sell. I don't care what product or service, because it's not about the product or service, it's about the process. So if you like or love, well, that's another thing that I use. You have to like or love the product.
Mm,
If you don't like it, love it, leave it. It's
yeah.
not going to get you through the hard times. People are going to feel it that you don't have as much enthusiasm about it. They're not going to buy it. You're going to have a rough time dragging this thing uphill. If you like or love the product that you represent, it shows in your voice, your tonality, your copy, and everything else. So that really matters, and I can feel that. So if you don't like or love it, I don't work with you. It's going to be hard, and it needs to be enjoyable once you understand the skill of sales. And so, yeah, I customize the process based upon the product or service that they have, based on the 10 steps. So it keeps it simple.
Mm,
Sales is simple, but it's not what? Easy.
easy.
Mhm.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. So who is your ideal client? What sort of clients do you work with, and either they're rewarding or profitable? Who is your ideal client?
A small business with 10 or less employees in the sales aspect of it. I work with teams, and it's like a group type deal. It's a beautiful thing to work with
Right.
individuals that can play off each other and they can role play. Entrepreneurs are a whole nother deal, because most people come from corporate and they start their own business and had the convenience of working with a company that had a sales department. Now they have a PhD or a master's degree and they have this business, but they don't know how to sell.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I can
They're
believe that.
smart, they're
I know a lot
educated,
of them.
but they
Yeah,
don't know how to sell.
yeah,
I don't know
I
why
would
this is
100%.
not working. I'm like, really? Pitch me. We have started, and I'm like,
No, it's absolutely right. Entrepreneurs sometimes not the best. The good thing about with an entrepreneur, I would imagine working with them on sales, is they do love their product. It's their product or service, so they do love it.
yeah,
But they just don't naturally come to the world of sales, and it's
no,
very much a hard skill if you've not grown up with it, or it's been part of your ethos. It can be a very tricky thing to be able to teach people, I would imagine, especially people who've worked in corporate. I worked in corporate for 14 years, thought I knew it all, and then started my own businesses, and I was like, okay, this is different. And
I
oh,
talked with a
but
lady yesterday. She is an attorney and a business coach,
right.
and she had her own company. She was doing that for years, and she decided sold the company. And now I'm just going to go out and consult. Like, oh, this should be easy. And I could just tell her voice. And I said, how long you been doing this? 3 years. I said, how much money have you lost? And she's, okay, but I just don't understand it. And I'm doing these workshops. I'm like, no, first of all, you focus on one thing. And I want to do group calls. I'm like, you don't do group calls until you fill up your a whole itinerary of
Mm.
one-on-ones, and then you go to group coach. So you're trying to do too many things at one time. And she's an attorney, which means they're stubborn. The four hardest people to sell: master's degrees, PhDs, doctors, and lawyers.
Doctors
Man,
and lawyers, right.
that's and car salesmen. Five hardest people to set to close, for many reasons. Say, for example, the PhD knows everything. You don't have to tell
Mm.
me. I went to school. I spent 100 grand. I'm like, I. So you have to break their ego down right off the bat. Like, you're not
Yeah.
that special, and I'm a PhD and own my own business. Like, good for you. Can you sell? They can't. So just having her to understand the frustration in that, and I'm like, you have the product, you just can't sell it.
Mm.
And you've been trying like the shiny objects that we always buy as entrepreneurs. Oh, this new app. Every month I'm learning some type of new website. The best one in the last 5 years that I love is the how we get together now is the calendar invites.
Mm.
Right? You want to talk to me? I have what I have called Meet with Benjamin. I bought the URL meetwithbenjamin.com. So
Mm.
yesterday I'm talking to a bunch of people and I just give them that. You want to get with
Yeah.
me? Very simple. They go there, they schedule the time they want to talk to me. And I have
Mm.
15-minute, 30-minute coaching sessions. So it's easy because everybody's so busy now. So that technology works well for a lot of people, automation, things of that nature. But yeah, going back to the deals, like, yeah, these professionals, when they leave the corporate world, they leave all of that comfort behind. They don't even know it's comfort until they try to do it themselves.
What type of risk appetite do you have?
Risk versus reward, you're saying? Ah,
Yeah, so do you take would you describe yourself as having high risk?
oh,
Um,
I just got through it. I'll tell you a real deal, real story, real time stuff. I started a
yeah.
trucking business because my father got an award from the governor of South Carolina. I'm sitting at the table with him and he says, I've heard you're a very entrepreneurial gentleman because I run three businesses. He said, why you don't have one here in the state
Right.
in South Carolina? So I researched a little bit. This is a lesson that people can learn. So I was like, I can get into the trucking business. There's money in that. I'm in Florida. I'm going to put my nephew in business in South Carolina. So I went out and bought the equipment. I didn't do my due diligence.
Right.
Went out, bought the equipment. I said, I'm going to find a deal where I can get a contract where I can get paid on a regular basis. I didn't know how tough the trucking market was. And long story short, a year and a half later, I pulled the plug in December, one of the happiest decisions to quit that business. And I called my nephew and I'm like, I'm going to pay you severance and I'm out. I'm like, I'm done with this because I'm not on the ground. I don't have it because every day is like a new sale. You're with,
Mm.
no matter who you are, unless you have a contract, you go to what's called the load boards looking just like everybody else for work every day. So it's like, those Spanish people that's sitting in a Home Depot hoping to
Mm.
get a
Mm.
job every day. So you're never can
Yeah.
sit on your laurels. And then the expenses, the tires, the fuel, the insurance, which went from, you're in UK, so dollars,
Yeah.
for one vehicle went from $1,700. And then the year I called the insurance company and I said, what's going to be my rate for next year for this truck? And they said 2,400. I said, I know that's a down
Oh.
payment, but what is the monthly payment I'm looking at? They said, no, that's it. I said, what? 2,400. I said, what? I said, that's a mortgage. That's a mortgage for a truck. That's a mortgage. I said, yes. And I said, that's crazy. And so with fuel is 4,000. So before you make profit in that business, you normally need three trucks, which I knew that. I was going to build it to that. Stretched out my credit, did everything, pulled the plug. My credit took a hit, down 60 grand. And so I pulled through every time. say October last year, I was still motivated.
Mm,
We could do this. We could get through it. We can knock this out as I'm just losing
mm,
money. This is what entrepreneurship is. And then you have to make the ultimate decision to pull a plug in the end. And I'm happy I
mm.
did because it was just, you have to make sense. But some people just go all the way down to the ground and just burn, crash and burn. Sometimes you
So
got to hit the parachute.
what did you learn from that experience? Was it due diligence that you maybe didn't do as much as you possibly should have done?
Don't get into trucking. No.
Don't get into tracking, right?
No, I learned once again, I didn't do my due diligence. And in the end, it's the same thing, the philosophy that I teach. I didn't love it or liked it. I
Right,
did it because somebody told me to, and I thought I can do it.
right.
Right. So I'm running other businesses while I'm setting this business up, which I thought wouldn't take a lot of my time. And it was just, I didn't do the business justice
Mm,
between me
mm,
and that business. So that I knew that was one of the ultimate things. And I didn't love it or liked it. So it wasn't my forte. So I'm coaching while I'm checking on the trucking, where it is in the country and so on. All these type of other things. I didn't give it the passion that it needed. And it bit me. And that's what
mm,
happens sometimes. And when I work with clients, even the teacher gets burned. Everybody gets
mm.
burned in the business.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody.
exactly. Back to sales.
Yeah.
How do you work with marketing and sales teams? Obviously, they're different. It would be great in most situations that they actually do communicate with each other and there is some synergy. I hear this not all the time, but I have heard a number of times people saying, "Oh, marketing's on that end of the floor and sales at that end of the floor," and you're just like, "Why are these guys not sitting next to each other, communicating all the time, learning from every call, learning from that?" So, how do you work? Like, you're focused on the sales side, but do you help with the marketing, or do you outsource to bring other people in who are marketing experts?
It's the job of the CEO to come down with the rules of engagement. This is how we're going to do things. Marketing and sales is going to work together,
Yeah,
right? Because sales can give feedback to marketing.
yeah,
And so marketing is what we call theory. We think
mm,
this is going to work. We're
yeah,
going to spend money on this. And as marketing, people spend millions, trillions of dollars goes towards marketing. And it doesn't have to pay back. How
mm,
many marketing companies you hired, spent tens of thousands of dollars, and got no
mm,
results? And you can't
yeah,
go back and sue them. That's marketing. They
yeah,
said if it didn't work out, but sales is different. Sales is measurable. So when marketing does a campaign and it starts to founder, the sales can give the feedback. This is not working, but it has to be in an
yeah,
intelligent way, not an arrogant way. This is not working.
mm,
This is not working because the people that we're talking to, we're getting this. So we might be in the wrong area. We might be in the wrong pricing. We might be. So you give that back to marketing so they can pivot.
yeah. What's the plan for you for the next 2 to 5 years?
Learjet, the islands, learning how to surf, um,
Now, reality-wise.
hiring them. What? Oh, we're back. Hi. Okay. The next 2 years is I tell people we're on this planet X amount of time. And people don't realize that until they probably get in their 40s and 50s. I have 74 first cousins. Every month, 2 months, somebody I know is passing away. So you only have this amount of time, finite amount of time in your life. You have to utilize it more. And as you get older, you realize how lucky you are to live. And
Mm,
so
mm,
my next 2 years is to maximize my time to grow the business because the other businesses fund this business a lot of times as it moves along. And so now I'm getting to the point where I get to do what I want to do and what I like to do is coaching and
awesome.
maximizing that as much as possible to reach as many people as possible. If you look at Tony Robbins, he's the guy. He's getting older. 10 years from now, he might not be able to do that stage the whole time. He's not going to be able, it's a lot of energy that he's doing. His voice
Mm,
has
mm, mm.
permanently been disabled from screaming all of
Yeah,
those years. People go to see him. And at some point in time, he's not going to be able to do it. So that's why people say, well, you better get there now. So that's what I tell people. You better get me now, because a lot of sales coaches sell at arm's length. I'm very personable. You get a lot of me that does a lot of role playing. So I make sure that you become successful. And so, later on down the line, I do group coaching and things like that, because it's based on my time. Right.
Mm,
So in the next
mm.
2 years, maximizing that, where it becomes my energy stays at a certain level to coach on a regular basis and just continue to pass down this skill that
Mm,
everybody should know but don't know
mm,
and should
mm.
implement. It should be a college class, because you can use this as a career, and most people don't. They use it as a side gig.
Side hustle, side gig. In all honesty, I subscribe to the 70-20-10 principle. So you've got your main business, which is 70% of your time. You should be thinking about the 20% of something that you're just testing, you're trying out, that might evolve. You can outsource the 70% of your business to other people, and then that 20 and the 10 is something speculative that you're just exploring. So for me, there is an idea of a side hustle, a side gig that you should be thinking about or testing to see if there is ways that you're able to then maybe leverage that at a later stage to move up. So I think the side hustle, the side gig, is only a problematic when it's only theoretical. When you're still actioning, when you're actually moving forward with that side gig, that side hustle, it can be incredibly helpful, beneficial, can be another revenue stream. So I get why you're saying, like, because people are just not, there's so much procrastination and so much like analysis paralysis, where they read 100 books and that's it. They don't
And they
as a
can quote
reaction.
the books too. They do on their Instagram.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's still not doing. It's one of my biggest frustrations is that people who I do a little bit of real estate, and the number of people that are like experts, like putting inverted commas, experts in property. How many properties do you own? I don't own any properties. Yeah. How can you be an expert telling me what to do? I own properties. You're now telling me what to do, and you only own the property you
Yeah,
live in.
because
It's
on
like,
page 68 of this book, it states,
yeah,
check my Instagram. I put it on Canva.
yeah,
It's beautiful on there with music in the background on the quote. It works. I'm telling you.
yeah. I know. People, eh? Look, thank you so much. We're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. First
Six
question is
one,
what's, sorry?
6'1". I thought you was asking height.
No.
No, okay.
First question is what's the best decision that you've made?
Having children.
Why?
It's your legacy. It's not for everyone, but to watch your genes in action grow. I watched my son the other day. He's 9 years old. And he did a mannerism. I'm like, that rascal just did what that's me. That's me. He just did that. Oh my goodness. I'm adopted. I have a sister who's adopted, and I found my birth mother a couple of years ago. I'm writing a book about that. And I got to tell this story. It's going to be brilliant. I found my birth mother. Long story short, she waited for me for 42 years. The phone calls when they found her said, "I've been waiting for this phone call for 42 years." So she had to give me
Wow.
up. Only child. She's partially disabled, but she's a brilliant. She's a historian, genealogist, and have her own Black History museum. She's monumental in her town. When she met me, my father, who had 10 kids, her father, she's part of 10 kids, died in 76. So when I started hanging out with her, I call her twice a week. We're like, she replaced my mom who passed away 12 years ago, pretty much.
Okay.
She came to my house in South Carolina. She's from South Carolina, but my town, we have a trailer that we put in. And so I do everything at the farm. I can repair stuff, woodwork, plumbing. I'm pretty good at it. Not the best, but
Right.
I can fix things.
Yeah.
So jeans, just tell you Jean. So her sister is there at the trailer. The plumbing was something in the trailer. My dad always had me fix things. Something wrong with the trailer, go over there and fix it, like it's leaking. And I go over there just like normal, and I'm over there working, fixing the thing, going through the sink, trying to fix it. She starts crying. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, you work just like my daddy. I'm like, what? You work? And when she met me, she was like, you look just like my daddy. You have his mannerisms. Out of the 10 kids and the grandkids, I'm the black sheep of the family that left, but I have all of the traits of her father. He was a watchmaker. He's a president. So I do a lot of things. I do my own websites. I own a limousine company. I can repair cars. I can do technological stuff. So I have all the traits my grandfather is, and she's sitting there crying, and I never met the man. And that's 2 generations away. You work just like my daddy. And I'm like, wow. You can't get that. And if I didn't find my birth mother, I wouldn't have this. Yeah. Because it's gene. My daughter looks just like her mother. 4 generations. Right. You take the picture. I have it on Facebook. My daughter, not her grandmother, but her great grandmother at 3 years old, side by side, twins. Right. Having a kids, which most people are like, oh, I don't have time. It pays off in the end. Sometimes they're headache in there, but it's your genes that you're passed down. It's like a book. Yeah. This never goes away, and my children never go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Don't give up. People quit too quick. They just quit.
Yeah.
Football, athletics, sports, everything. That's my daughter pinging me. She's in Virginia. I can hear her.
Okay.
Daddy, she's 12. Never entrepreneurship. It's about failure. My ex-wife was at the accountant. She goes, when is this website going to be done? The accountant looked at her and said, it's never done.
I love it. Yes.
It's a journey. It's never over. Yeah. She's like, when is this all going to end? All this crazy stress. And no, this is entrepreneurship. This is how you're in it. It's one of the reasons I'm divorced. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Next question. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
Ooh, I have to go based on my mentors. And I tell people, find a mentor. That is the most productive thing that you can ever do, is put down your ego and ask for help. The reason people reach out to me, I can sell. Okay, pitch me. I need help. It's the most biggest thing you could do in your business, say I need help. And so finding mentors that will work with you on the long term, not only can calm down your mind, your mindset, but also hold you accountable for your actions, which is very much key in entrepreneurship. Did you do what you say you're going to do?
Tell me about a regret that you have.
Man, we don't have that kind of time. Take that out of your 6. That's a whole podcast right there on each one of them. Man, my goodness gracious. As far as what? Entrepreneurship? Man, tons.
Whatever you like. Whatever you like.
My goodness. I regret I started the trucking company. I regret I didn't get into marketing. I regret I didn't go back to LinkedIn when I should. I regret that I thought Instagram would get me more customers. I regret doing Facebook ads 2 years ago, dropping $15,000 on something that didn't work. It's just a road laid down. Entrepreneurs, when they look back, it's just a shambles of just like the road to Iraq when I was in Iraq, and they had that road of all of the vehicles that were destroyed. That's an entrepreneur looking back at his entrepreneur.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Because it is testing. Entrepreneurship, you're always testing a new product, a new service, a new idea. And as you say, there can be and I love your honesty, because a lot of people on my show say, oh, I have no regrets. And I just think, come on, like everyone has a regret or two. And I love your answer. I absolutely love your answer. And I think you're absolutely right. It is something that we have to embrace, that you're going to make mistakes. But as long as you keep moving forward, even if it's just one step at a time, keep moving forward, and you're bound to get there.
It's the best way analogy is getting somebody who has a full body tattoos, and then you're asking them about each one of them. This happened when I downloaded this app, and this one right here, and then this one over here is I had a LinkedIn marketing agency, and then down here is the wrong accountant. Then the IRS hit me.
Love it. What are you most proud of?
I don't think I'm there yet.
Okay.
I think it's a work in progress. I think I still have a ways to go. I don't sit on my laurels and pat my back and all that kind of stuff. I learned that's not very productive. Making my dad proud. He's 95 years old, still around. He's still, my son's an entrepreneur. That type of deal. Let people give you the accolades. Don't give it to yourself.
Why do you do what you do?
Because I love it. Like it or love it.
And you love it. I can tell you absolutely love what you do, which is so lovely, so refreshing. I'm not saying other people on my show don't love what they do, but I just love your outlook, your mindset. It's
Yeah,
very
a lot of people takes you think you're gonna, and I talk to my son, my godson. I have people at different ages. It's like it takes some time for you to figure out why you're here. Michael Jordan was the best because he didn't start till the 11th grade, but he figured out Tiger Woods was groomed into that, right?
Yeah.
He
And
didn't have a choice. He was
Serena Williams and people like that are all the same. They've been groomed into it. Yeah.
yes. We don't have that benefit. Our parents normally don't have the money to tour around for baseball around the world and in these special different type of deals. You have to figure it out, and you have to do this and do that and do this and do that. That's part of what's called life.
It is. And what does legacy mean to you?
I'm still working on that because once you understand, for a lot of people, some people get it early in their 20s and 30s, sometimes 40s, not to 50s, but realizes that life is fleeting. And then you start stop worrying about what happened in the past and start worrying about what people are going to remember for you in the future. Right?
Yeah.
Most people say, I won't get that until I get X amount of dollars. And most people, it's sad when you hear about somebody who worked for a company for 40 years, retired, and 6 months later passed away. My dad retired 30 years ago. He's 95. He's hanging in there. He's been through COVID. Yeah. And I went home last time, took the kids home, and for your grandfather who's walking around with a walker so they can remember their family. And I told him, I said, I'm proud of you. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm at the resolve. You made it to 95 years old. You've enjoyed your retirement. You've had another love in your life besides my mother. You had enjoyed the farm. If something were to happen to you today, I am at resolve and happy that you're doing that type of deal. So to get to that age alone, which most people don't, his legacy is there. And so the same thing I wish for myself.
And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you or your business?
They can do Master the Art of Closing the Sales on Amazon and everywhere, book sales and everything and everywhere. And then 360 Sales Consultants, the website. But I have people, if they need me and would like to get analyzed, I only work with certain individuals. I have to qualify, but meetwithbenjamin.com. And you can schedule a call for an assessment to figure out what's going on with your business and sales, and we see if we can work together, because we have to work together based on that. And so meetwithbenjamin.com is the easiest way to do that. So Mark, what was the biggest thing that you learned in our conversation today about sales?
Biggest thing I learned, which is I already knew, but it was nice recapping on, is that resilience and that idea of, and I hear so many people that they'll make 5 phone calls, get 5 no's, and just go, I'm not doing it anymore. And you're like, out of 100 calls, you might only get 10 follow-ups, which turn into maybe 2 sales, but you've got to do the 100 calls. And the other thing I've learned about, I already knew this as well, is you've got to enjoy the process. It's the journey which is the fun bit. It shouldn't be a number in your bank account or a size, a revenue, whatever it is. You've really got to enjoy what you do. And for me, that is massively important for me. Changing from a corporate role, doing 12-hour days and every day, and the flexibility, I still work bloody hard, but I have a flexibility which I wouldn't have in a corporate life. So you've got to enjoy the journey, the process, or there's no like it or love it. You've got to like it or love it to keep doing it. That's something else which came out of this conversation. But just to close off, I would like to say, Ben, I love your spirit. I love your attitude to life. I love your attitude to business. I'm absolutely sure that you've got still many great things to do within the sales arena. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Absolutely. Remember, if you like it or love it, sell it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben. Cheers. I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a like. Please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.